Hello everyone and welcome back to another deck guide, this time featuring mostly Swordsoul, but also a small Odion package for Genesys. This is one of those decks I assume I have to defend, so let me explain. There's a lot of little synergies here that probably aren't immediately apparent. The biggest of which are the Apophis monsters themselves. These are levels 4 and 6, which you may recognize as exactly the levels that Swordsoul wants to synchro with, as well as being normal monsters to turn on the Tenyis. So if you like little synergies like that and want to see a bunch more, then let's get started. First up is Swordsoul proper. This is a synchro archetype focused on making 8s and 10s using tokens as tuners. Unfortunately, the Genesys team assumed they'd be better than Killer Toon and Typhoon, it seems, and pointed them to all hell. Thankfully, however, we're quite good at going second and breaking a board in engine, which is always something I enjoy. First up is my girl Moye. On summon, she can reveal a Swordsoul card or a worm monster in hand to make a token. The Swordsoul tokens are always level 4 water worm tuners with 0 attack and 0 defense, and each main deck Swordsoul has a condition to meet to make one. Moye's condition is the best since it doesn't actually take a resource and just asks you to include a lot of worms in the deck to make sure you always have one to show. Notably, the tokens all synchro lock you until they're off the field, which isn't a big deal because we don't have links and you can't Exy summon with a token anyways. Lastly, for Moye, if you use her as synchro material, you get to draw a card. Next up is 3 copies of Incredible Ecclesia, who is an honorary Swordsoul. She can special from hand if the opponent has more monsters than you and contribute during any main phase to summon Albaz or any Swordsoul monster. Basically, she's 3 more Moyes that can special out going second, but she can also summon our next card as well. Taya is not a starter since his token condition is banishing a Swordsoul or worm from grave, but that's still not a hard condition to fill, and the fact that he's wind and makes a water token is relevant out of the extra deck. When used as material, he foolishes any worm. I want to emphasize here how incredibly good the generic support for worm-type monsters is. You'll see it throughout the profile, and the only thing that holds back worms from being broken in half is that there's only 99 of them total. That makes Moye and Taya the only worms with good effects on board, but I'm telling you right now, keep an eye out for any worm archetype in the future, literally anyone. Our last main deck Swordsoul is Longyuan, who is our lone level 6 and can discard a Swordsoul card or a worm to summon himself and a token. The fact that the token is part of his summon and not on summon is a big plus here since he can't be impermed. When sent to grave, he burns the opponent for 1200, and while we're not burning for time anymore, all of the sword's grave effects are super useful in letting us chain block the on-summon effects of whatever synchro we make. That's one of the reasons we go second quite well alongside Ecclesia's special summon and the upcoming Tenyis. For spells we have Emergence, which is an archetypal Rhoda, but if you already have a synchro on board, it can go get any worm instead. I'm telling you guys, the support goes crazy. If you banish one of the spells, they let you modulate a monster's level up or down by 1 until end of turn to get access to 7s and 9s. Not terribly relevant, but it does come up. Last for spells is 1 copy of Sacred Summit, which can reborn a Swordsoul, or yes, a worm if you have a synchro, and has the same level modulation effect as Emergence. For traps, we're only playing 1 in Blackout. This is a simple but effective disruption, letting you target a worm you control and 2 cards the opponent controls to destroy all 3. If the traps are banished, they make an extra token, which can be very relevant if you say discard this to Longyuan, then get Taya out. We're playing 2 because we don't have a ton of consistent searchers and often need to get other pieces, so we don't mind opening 1, and having an extra is nice because this deck almost always gets to turns 3, 4, or even 5. All of this brings us to 54 points so far, with another 20 out of the extra deck for a whopping 74 total for the Swordsoul engine. That limits our non-engine drastically right off the bat, which is why I've basically opted out of it entirely. Instead, we're on a significant Tenyi package. These guys are a bit more complicated than the Swordsouls themselves, but they're kind of joined at the hip. Most of the Tenyis can special summon from hand if you have no effect monsters, which starts our turn off strong with a free body. They also almost all have an effect to banish from hand or grave for some value as long as we have a non-effect monster on board. In Genesis, we don't have the links you normally use for that, but we're fulfilling that condition with the Swordsoul tokens and the Apophis traps. Starting with Ashuna, this is a level 7 light whose banish effect is to summon out any other Tenyi, but be careful because this, on use, worm locks you for the rest of the turn. That means you want to use Ashuna as a last resort to keep extending, or use it on turn 3 for follow-up. For some reason, this is pointed at 3 apiece for a total of 9, and having a free 7 gives us access to Synchro 11s, for which I think Jura is the best generic option. Next up is Edhara, which is probably the most important Tenyi. This is a level 1 Earth Tuner. Its banish effect is to add a banished worm back to hand, so we can get back like a Moye that we banished off of Taya, for example. In addition to helping us grind, being a level 1 tuner gives us easy access to level 5s, which I'm not playing because the good one is 20 points, but it also makes level 7 a lot easier, which is very important because we have one incredible level 7 synchro. Our last 3 of Tenyi is the weird one, Saruya. She doesn't follow the normal Tenyi rules and just summons out as a level 4 light tuner extender as long as we have a worm or a non-effect monster, which is basically everything in the deck. Basically, she just extends us through a token getting destroyed or otherwise stopped. The rest of her text pertains to Link monsters, so sadly it's useless here. She's normally the summon off of Ashuna, and I have gone through multiple in a turn despite the lack of relevant text just because she's a good extender. For one-ofs, we're on Vishuddha, who is another level 7, but also a dark, and can banish to return an opponent's card to hand. You can play more or fewer Vishuddhas based on how all-in you are on the going second plan, but I find one to search is pretty good, and I sideboard another one to bring in. Mapura gets by on virtue of being a level 4 non-tuner that you can summon off of Ashuna, but I have used it before to banish itself to negate and destroy an effect that targets your non-effect monster. It's weird, but it does come up. For spells, we're playing Heavenly Dragon Circle as an extender to dodge targeted disruption. It tributes a worm as cost to add any worm from deck to hand, or if you tributed a non-effect monster, you can summon it negated instead. The idea here is to dodge Imperm on Moye and add Mapura to summon out and use with Moye's token, or to dodge a destruction on a token to summon out Saruya, so you have a tuner anyways. It can also banish from grave if you have a non-effect on board to add a Tenyi from deck to hand, but it's one effect for turn, so you do that as follow-up rather than more extension. We're on 2 of them because we also have one Tenyi Infinity, which can search it on activation, effectively giving us 3 circles. And then this field spell is also searchable out of the extra deck and has a little bit of upside since it lets you tribute a worm to target and destroy a monster. It's not the best trade, but every little bit helps break a board. Then we're on our abbreviated Odion engine. This is 9 cards that gives us more 4s, more 6s, more non-effect monsters, and a stronger end board since Swordsoul's 1 card is like fine at best. Circuit can summon from hand by banishing a level 10 or above monster from deck as long as you have Temple of the Kings on field, and then can search Temple or a spell that mentions it. Circuit's also just like good to have in battle phase because it can destroy on declaration and gain half the attack of the destroyed monster permanently. It's also a level 6 for Synchro and Exige shenanigans. In fact, everything in the Odion engine besides Anubis is a level 4 or 6. I just don't want to play Odion himself because Swordsoul kind of monopolizes our normal summon. Our banish off of Circuit is a fun one, Genro Ryuge Hakva. This is a level 10 wind worm, so you can reveal it for Moye or pitch it for Longyon or banish it for Taya. And it's actually a relevant body since if it's banished and then another monster gets banished and there's at least 3 total, you can summon him out. That sounds convoluted, but it really isn't. You just banish him off Circuit, do normal Swordsoul and Tenyi stuff, and he comes back at any time as a 3000 attack Chungus that can die, get banished, and come back again and again. Next up is the most important card in the package, Treasures of the Kings. This field spell lets you set an Apophis trap from deck, then search your Circuit. It's simple, but notably searchable off the Swordsoul engine, which we'll talk about in the extra deck. Regardless, we're playing 3 since we don't mind opening it in the slightest. OG Temple of the Kings is just a combo piece for the deck that we normally search off Circuit, and it lets us activate a trap the turn it was set. We're activating Apophis the Serpent off of it, which summons out as a level 4 normal monster and sets Apophis the Swamp Deity. This one summons as a level 6 normal monster and negates face-up cards non-targeting on resolution equal to the number of other continuous traps you have. That's almost always just one in this deck, being the Serpent Apophis, but still an Omni-Negate in this economy does a lot of work. In general, the package is good to open even going second because it threatens an Omni-Negate extension and a couple of big guys, which means the opponent has to have an answer. Make no mistake, this is not an easy deck to play, and you often have to goad the opponent into using interaction where you want them to, so you can push through more important pieces. In the side, we have some options if you'd like to customize the deck a bit. We have enough points for a couple of dark holes that I play in the side because they're kind of awkward to use since a clear board turns off Ecclesia's special summon as well as some of our extra deck guys. So this could be like a Dark Ruler if you find that flows better for you. You could even take out an Ashuna to play more Dark Holes and or Dark Rulers, but I don't think you go below 2 copies of the Worm. More Vishudas in the side give us more board breaking in Engine. I play one here, but you could play a playset if you like, or even move more into the main if you want. Last up for now, Tenyenfinity can also search Vessel for the Dragon Cycle, which is a really good card for going first extension. I just didn't want to build assuming I'd go uninterrupted, but you could swap out a circle for a cycle. In the extra deck, we're starting off strong with our 1 Synchro 7, Yazi. Yazi is untargetable by the opponent and can activate to target a Yangzing you control, such as himself, and a card the opponent controls to destroy both. We go through the trouble of making a Synchro monster just to destroy it because of his last effect, which says, when he's destroyed you can summon, and I'm not joking, any worm from your deck in defense position. This is why we play 3 Adharas. Being able to make a 7 is not only disruption, but a starter in this deck. Next up, Mula Adhara brings the whole thing together since if he's synchroed and you have 2 or more worms between your grave and banishment, you can add any field spell from deck to hand. Surprisingly, there's not a ton of good options in Genesys since the Floodgate ones are pointed to hell, and the ones that start engines mostly need your normal summon. That leaves us searching 1 weak Floodgate, Tenyenfinity, Odion, or Tistina realistically. And while Tistina's funny for doing all-in going second OTK shenanigans, Odion has the best synergy here. Mula also powers up if you have a non-effect on field and becomes untargetable, indestructible, and gains 2 attacks per battle phase. Most of the time, though, we're using him as our blackout target once he's done his job and search treasures. That clears up some board space so we can use the Apophises right. Chixiao searches a Swordsoul card on summon and can banish a card from grave to negate a monster once per turn. He's also our last pointed card at 20 for some reason, which really sucks because I would love to have one more copy and it's just not possible. Baxia is another crazy piece of worm support, being able to target cards on summon to shuffle back into the deck equal to the number of different attributes you use to make it. There's a couple of things to remember with this one. You're normally trying to make this with Taya to spin 2 since Taya is wind and the token is water, but you can also use Moye and Saruya and keep the token on board to keep the Tenyis live if you open that. Also remember that when we make this with Moye or Taya, we get to chain block the shuffle effect to make it that much harder for the opponent to answer. And we can dodge targeted negation with Dragon Circle to force the spin through. But we don't stop there since Baxia can also target a card you control and any level 4 or lower monster in your grave, any one, to pop and swap them for each other. That means you can, for example, pop a Treasures of the Kings after it's already been used or interrupted and get another body on the field instead to keep going. That's not even it. The reason I have 2 in here is because neither the spin nor the swap is a hard once per turn, so you can just pressure the opponent all day with this card. Next up is Draco Berserker, who sees play as a generic 8 because he's just that good. He can banish a monster once per turn when it activates an effect. Note that doesn't negate, it's just the banish. And if he wins in battle, he can also permanently gain the destroyed monster's attack, the whole thing, and swing again, but only at a monster and only once per turn. Whale can only be made off Moye and a token, but threatens to destroy all of the opponent's attack position monsters on summon, then can swing twice at monsters each turn, deals piercing damage in case someone tries to crooked cook us, and when destroyed can banish Moye from grave to summon right back. Do not underestimate the Whale. On to 10s, we have a few incredible ones. Kijing Longyan is our big boss, and if you synchro another worm while he's on the field, you can draw a card once per turn. Then also once each, if the opponent specials one or more monsters, you can banish one of them non-targeting and burn the opponent for 1200. And if they activate a spell or trap, you can banish that and burn for 1200. Couple that with OG Longyan, you're burning for 36 a turn, drawing back the card you discarded, and getting 2 disruptions. Just an incredible card, but be aware that at 2900 attack, he's not the hardest thing to out in battle. That honor goes to Shengying instead, who again sees generic play because he's just that good. Every banished card for any player gives my guy 100 attack and defense, and all opponents' monsters lose the same amount, which makes him huge by comparison. He's also effectively indestructible, since you can banish a card from grave instead if he would be destroyed. And that's not good for the opponent, because it not only makes him bigger, but also triggers the last effect to non-targeting banish a card from field and grave. Speaking of hard to out bosses, we also get the luxury of playing Gaimir Agerine, who needs a water tuner, but for the trouble can quick effect make all of our monsters indestructible and unbanishable by card effects for the turn, and if you responded to an opponent's card with it, you can then banish that card that you responded to. Lastly, if she's in grave and the opponent banishes a card, she comes right back to the field, which is pretty cool. Just hard to out, good boss. Then we have a couple weird levels that don't come up too often, but do sometimes. Jurazar 11 that gains us life and can destroy all of the opponent's monsters on their turn by tributing himself. It can also do face-up back row instead, but like, how often does that come up? For our lone 12, we're playing the best one, Vengeance Dragon. This lets us put a guy in the back row and also pop 2 cards during the battle phase. Since we have quite a few 6s, I also opted into one rank 6, and Crazy Beast is the best unpointed one. It can protect your monsters a la Dingirsu and can eat an opponent's back row. Lastly, Apophis is another level 6 that you can make by contact fusing off the main deck Apophises, and lets you reset them from grave and destroy a card when you summon one. I have gone through 2 in a turn since Temple exists, and neither effect is a hard once, so it's a good idea to have an extra for a grindy game state. Honorable mentions include Black Rose Dragon, which you could play instead of or in addition to Yazi to help break boards, and Dragulus, which is a pretty solid 6 that's a worm, so it's on theme, but not everyone uses the extra deck a lot in Genesys, so it loses some power here. Then with that, let's go see some combos. Okay, I want to make it clear right off the bat before we get into combos. Swordsoul is not a one-card combo deck. There's nothing in this deck I would consider a true one-card combo. The closest thing is going to be Moye Reveal Anything That Works. That's what this is going to be, and even that's, like, not super impressive, but if you've never seen it before, here we go. So, we're going to normal summon Moye, reveal any card that works, another Moye does, make a token, go into Chixiao, draw a free card off of the Moye, search our Longyan off of Chixiao, pitch a card in hand, whatever you showed for Moye would work, to summon self in a token, then we can go into Kijing Longyan and burn the opponent for 12, and that's it. Like, that's the combo. That's the one-card Swordsoul combo. That's always been the one-card Swordsoul combo, except Kijing was, for the longest time, Baronne de Fleur. We obviously don't really have points for that. You can see it's not super-duper impressive, but the deck flows in such a way where the more cards you have, the more and more you can do. Like, it feels really good to play despite the lack of a potent one-card combo. Let's go see the other one that I kind of think it's good to know in this deck. And then the other one that I think is good for you to know in this deck is one card off of Emergence and obviously anything to reveal off of Moye. It has to be Emergence because we're going to use it to go get Taya, and then we're going to normal summon the Taya, and we have to have something in grave to banish to make a token, so that we can go into Chixiao, we can dump Moye and search Sacred Summit, because we've already normal summoned, so even if we search Moye, we can't summon her out. But we can get her out this way, and then reveal the same card that we revealed, or that's when we need the one card, sorry. And then we can go 4+4 for Muled Hara, because now we have 2 worm names in grave. That's going to let us draw off the Moye and search our Treasures of the Kings. We can go Treasures of the King, set the Apophis the Serpent, and because we started with Emergence, or this could be Blackout, or even the Sacred Summit itself would have been fine, we have something to set so that we can search Circuit. Again, we're kind of like stretching the bounds of what I consider a one-card, quote-unquote, combo. But we can banish Hakva for the Circuit, and then search up Temple of the Kings, so we can activate that, so we can use our Apophis the Serpent to summon itself, set a deity, summon the deity, contact Fuse into Apophis from extra deck, set both of them so we can use them as disruptions, and overlay for Goblin's Crazy Beast. So this is, we've got theoretically 2 negates, we have whatever we set. We'd prefer it be a Blackout over another Emergence, but hey, follow-up's fine too. We've got Crazy Beast to protect our stuff and eat the opponent's back row. We've got a monster negate, and Hakva can come back the next time anything is banned. Oh no, because we didn't banish a monster. We need to banish 2 things before Hakva can come back. But still, that's not terribly difficult to do, especially if the opponent's just banishing a couple of things as part of their combo. Cool, cool. Alright, game 1, we are going second up against Metal Morph, and you can see that this was game 2 of a match. We have Gameciel in from our sideboard here. Let's see what we can do. The interesting thing about Swordsoul in Genesys, and I've said it a couple times already, is that with how good it is at breaking a board in Engine, like, Genesys decks don't put up that many disruptions. You can see here, this is pretty much end board for Metal Morph, and they get 3 disruptions, but we just tribute one of them for the Gameciel. They have Godos, which is a DD Crow effectively. I don't know if they're playing a bigger engine for the Hecka Hands in this deck. I couldn't tell you. But, like, 4 disruptions, and we just chew through 2 of them with a sideboard piece, and then in Engine we just do not care. We don't even come close to getting stopped by the remaining ones. So that's just pretty cool. They go ahead and steal Taya, which was correct, because we specifically fetched Taya to pitch it to summon it back. They see that that's what we were trying to do. They steal it from us. We just keep on trucking anyways. We put the Red Eyes in the back row, pop their stuff, and that's it. So 4 disruptions, full end board. We had no hand traps or anything. We just had the Gameciel, and we just chew through it and win. That's what the deck does. Cool, cool. Alright, and game 2 is up against Dark Lords. This is going to be a different one, but it's one that I actually really liked. So you can see they don't do anything. So the assumption here is that they probably just have a million hand traps. So let's see what we can do to make it work. So we special out the Mapura because it gives us an extra target. They go ahead and they orange light our Baxia to protect their back row. So obviously the back row is rather important. That's okay, we have extension here, except it was a super poly. Okay, well that really sucks. So we just have to set Apophis the Serpent and pass, but Apophis the Serpent in hand just represents a negate. And if they didn't have anything turn 1, maybe they don't have anything here, which is why I hit the Deity immediately. And turns out, yeah, they ripped that off the top. That was the only starter they had. So now we're officially in a simplified board state and a grind game. And the Apophisi here are really good in a simplified board state and a grind game. Especially because we also have this Saruya, so we can make Shenying, who is incredibly good in a simplified board state and a grind game. So, you know, this is a deck that clearly is trying to force this position, and we just don't care. We still just make it there with what we've got through multiple disruptions, through a super poly, through an orange light, through a green light. We establish enough of a board to just be unbeatable in this position. Cool? Cool. And we're back with closing thoughts on our Swordsoul Odion deck. So I just kind of had the idea to make this a couple of weeks ago, and I slapped it together in 2 days, and I took it to a locals event, and it performed. Like, it was competitive into some of the best decks in the format, which was surprising to me. Considering I just wanted to do something with Swordsoul because I had it, because the bulk of the Swordsoul deck, if you take out Saruya and the Apophis stuff here, is all of $5. It is like the cheapest functioning deck core you can find. My LGS literally just has a bulk box of Swordsoul adjacent stuff. I got to pick the rarities I wanted, and they were still dirt cheap. And so, you know, it's a really solid, cheap deck that I picked up because I like synchro stuff, and I wanted to build it because I like combo slop more than just like building this as a control, or it's more mid-range engine if you play pure Swordsoul. I wanted to do something a little more combo-y, and so I clung on to the idea of Muladhara, and while that gets you any field spell, there's like a lot of field spells that could bridge you into an engine, but they need a normal summon, like Mimighoul, and what else? Like Assault Mode would work, but you need your normal summon. But Odion doesn't, and that's the same idea I did Odion Punk with, is I don't need my normal summon to access this engine, and I can search this engine, and it strengthens my end board with back row in a deck that doesn't have a whole lot of good back row available to it. And so, you know, it performs great. I've been enjoying it a lot. I've played it a few times since, and it's like, you lose the die roll, and you still actually have a fighting chance, which is one of the hallmarks of the funnest decks to me, is the ability to, okay, well, I can, if I play this properly, I can break your board and, like, simplify the board state and gain an advantage and win. Those are always like really fun decks. I like actually playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Against my opponent. The downside is obviously that it costs 7.5 million points for no good reason. So like, if you wanted to play pure, if you wanted to take out the Odion stuff, you'd be, what do you have? You've got 17 points. You could take out Anashuna, which gives you a whole 20 to work with. Good luck. That's like a playset of Ghost Ogres and some DD Crows and Skullmeisters, which I have decided personally DD Crow and Skullmeister are not worth the deck space, even if they're free. Like, every time I've played one of those against an opponent, they just have played through it and not cared. Like, I threw 2 Skullmeisters at a White Forest opponent, and I play White Forest, so I know what I'm doing, and I knew where to hit, and they still just ended on full board. That's kind of when I decided I'm done with those guys. They just don't do enough. So, like, you could do that with 20 points, but I honestly think this is a better investment, or just go play, like, Tistina. It's a completely free engine that can break a board and OTK the opponent on, I think it was 8 engine pieces that I'd gotten it down to, so it's even smaller of a package than this one. Cost no points and just OTKs, so that was pretty funny. But yeah, I've rambled enough. The deck is fun. It's better than you think it is, probably. I've been enjoying it a lot. I've been tuning it, and it's cheap, so like if you've been maybe looking into getting into a Genesys deck, the only thing here is it's like $750 per Saruya. You could run just the one. I wouldn't necessarily advise it, but you could just run one searchable copy, in which case I would replace it with Vessels for the Dragon Cycle, because that helps you get to Saruya. You know, you can pick up a very cheap Genesys deck with this one. And it's fun and good, and actually plays Yu-Gi-Oh! So that's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you liked it, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.